What is up, everybody? Keith, aka Gator Guy 231, here to break down Wednesday's early slate. I'm actually going to do two different video feeds for this, one for the early and one for late. So right now you are on early. If you want late, I'm going to drop a little card that you can see right above. Flick over there, but splitting it up should make these pretty, right around 10 minutes, maybe a little bit less. But I'll tell you, early is the type of slate that a player like my style just absolutely loves. We can fit maximum amount of set piece takers and good set piece takers at that. Not only at my forward positions, midfield, but then another in utility. So I'm really excited. Also, we don't have any overwhelming favorites. So the three matches that we have are the struggling Arsenal versus Southampton, which I'll go into in a minute because I do think we see some shakeups. We have Leicester hosting Everton, a Hymus-less Everton, which is important. And then the biggest fan, both those games are actually, just slight favorites for the home teams. And then the biggest favorite as like a minus 130 is Leeds hosting Newcastle, which from a GPP perspective, I'm really interested in that. Leeds does fit a style that can absolutely blitz a team like Newcastle that wants to bunker. So I do think that while optimally we might only have like one or two pieces for GPP, that's a really interesting game. So, just before getting the picks, bottom right is the subscribe button. Make sure you hit that if you are interested in all of the content. I'm doing my best to pump out all these EPL slates and not miss one for you all. So I hope that you enjoy, and let's jump right into it. So I do want to start out with Arsenal versus Southampton because I think in a lot of ways at this slate, on this slate, that Arsenal pieces / if you decide to ignore them or if you decide to play them is going to be what decides things. They are priced way down. They are priced kind of how they are playing. But that said, while Arsenal are playing badly, they're not playing badly for DFS. Willian, the last few games has just been, because Arsenal's been falling down and chasing the game or not being able to score and just throwing in a ton of crosses, has been a DFS royalty for us. And they actually priced him down again under sub 7K with a likely monopoly of set pieces. Every once in a while you'll see Saka jump over, or if Pepe got to start, maybe it's a split. But he sticks out right away as a potential close to double-digit floor, especially versus Southampton, which, while Southampton is a good team, they're not a team that's going to dominate possession. They're not going to allow no chances for Arsenal. So, despite how bad Arsenal's playing, I have plenty of interest in a Willian, and then even more interest in if Willian were to sit, which I think is a very strong possibility. Pepe has been playing great in Europa. It's coming off of the suspension. He's like 5,400. So he could potentially getting a Nico Pepe, who's a great DFS asset, likes to shoot, draws fouls, takes some set pieces, and he's forward eligible. So I think one of those two forward spots is either going to be Pepe or Willian. If you want to play the little bit more, we'll give Pacheco's term a little more flair. You could do somebody like a Saka, or if you just want to chase, the goal drought that is Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. He's going to break out of this at some point, and his price for his talent is getting kind of silly. If I remember right, it's 6,200. So, I can't fault anybody for getting a guy that this time last year, maybe not this time, at points last year, was above 10K, would have been somebody, we would just lock and load if we ever saw for 6,200. But, on this slate, I just don't know if I need to chase goals. I can chase floors, and we were just talking about this in our Discord, but one goal, if PEA scores one goal and scores 15 points, I can chase that down with like a Willian or a Pepe. They can get me like a 10 to 12 DK, and I'll be okay. Now where I'm in trouble is if PEA is like 50% owned, scores 2 goals, now he's at like 28 DK for 6,200. I'm sitting there with Williams 8 DK. I might be in trouble, but I think that those are the variance type of things with soccer and goal scoring that if you play a lot of cash games, you play optimally, right? Chasing floors, then that's the risk you're willing to take. Other thing we just want to talk about is Bellerin is out, so that's either going to put Ainsley Maitland-Niles, who, while he's cheap, I still might be on him. He's never that great for DFS on the right. or we get a Cedric revenge game. Cedric is the guy that loves to cross, so I think it's like 4,700. He is a fine play versus old squad. I think that's Arsenal for me. Like Tierney is fine. You know, you got a lot of these other guys that are fine, but I think your big targets are those forward eligible ones. Danny Ceballos at this point, even if he were to start for the suspended Xhaka, I don't know if he's going to get any sets. It's just been a while since he's been out of favor, so I don't think that that's somebody we necessarily need to chase. All right, on the Southampton side, really two plays. If you want to chase upside, Danny Ings, you know, maybe he'll actually go low own with so many good forward plays on the slate. So I like him for GPP, but in cash games, I think James Ward-Prowse deserves to be highly considered for one of your valuable midfield spots. Monopoly of set pieces, the best at this point. We have to maybe consider him the best free kick taker in the EPL. Sorry, Kevin De Bruyne, but if Ilkay Gundogan is going to get the nod to take some direct free kicks, I think I might have to knock you off your ledge a little bit, because James Ward-Prowse is just out of his mind on the free kicks. But so yeah, I think he's pretty easy to fit. You know, get me close to locking in like 9 to 10 floor points with some upside, and ready to rock. You can always consider Ryan Bertrand or Kyle Walker-Peters, but that's probably it from Southampton. All right, let's go to Leicester hosting Everton. So Everton is without James Rodriguez, which is going to put Gylfi Sigurdsson on a Monopoly set pieces. Was phenomenal versus Chelsea. That goal did come from a PK, but you know, despite his struggle with PKs, that means he's still on them. Monopoly set pieces, I think he had 6 shots assisted, despite Everton only having, I think, 23% of possession, something crazy like that. So, you know, I kind of dogged Gylfi a little bit, said that he's, you know, not the Gylfi of old, but we saw the Gylfi of old. And, you know, I was a big fan of the Gylfi of old. Fits my style, is a great DFS player, so I think we can definitely look to him as a floor play. I think he's like 6,400. Works out well. And then we have, on the other side of things, we have James Madison, who's, you know, top 5 floor player in the EPL anytime he's healthy. He's coming off a phenomenal game on the weekend. The pricing here on this early slate is just soft, so I can like lock in all these set guys and still have salaries left over, which is probably going to be how I try to aim. Jamie Vardy obviously is always a great GPP target. Everton can get leaky, but we did see them, you know, stand up to the test versus Chelsea, keeping a clean sheet versus that. I almost said offensive powerhouse. We saw for a little bit, but maybe Chelsea a little overrated without Ziyech. Struggling to break down Wolves today. They could not break down Everton. We'll see what Leicester can do versus Everton, but you know, this is the type of slate that I'm the one that's always going to probably fade Vardy. He gets goals and assists, but he's just not going to be like a high floor player. You know, you're really going to have to get a goal or assist for him to pay off. So just with so many forward eligible set takers, I struggle to see how I'm going to play him. And my optimal build's fine for GPP. Other Leicester pieces, just depending on how they line up. James Justin's always great. I do prefer him on the right versus the left because he crosses more, but he, you know, tackles, fouls drawn. Right wing back, we've been seeing decent amount of Albrighton, who's done great there. He is mid eligible though only, which there's so many good midfielders. It's hard to use a spot up on him outside of like a GPP stack. Then if you want a punt defender, Wilfred Ndidi is a guy, you know, for years I've played at like 4,000 to 4,500 as a center midfielder, just because he has such good defensive stats, fouls drawn, tackles, all that stuff. He's defensive eligible, 3,400. So if you need to punt, I think he's fine. That will probably wrap up Leicester and Everton. I guess I just did Everton wrong there. Gylfi's really the only guy I'm going to target. I think, you know, obviously we want to look at, you know, if they get any of the cheap defenders, there's a good chance Coleman and Dean are still out. You know, they've been playing like a version of like Godfrey or Iwobi or all these guys there. Who was it? It was Holgate and Godfrey. Both of them are center backs by trade at this point. Holgate we've seen down the championship throwing a ton of crosses. I think he was on loan. I want to say it was West Brom. So he's the better of the two fullbacks if he's going to play there. Or maybe we get one of the young kids. We get like John Joe Kenny, or I'm blanking on the Nkukolu, I think is his name, the left back. So obviously those work too. Outside of that though, I'm probably not going to be on Richarlison. You know, same reason as Vardy, although Richarlison's a better floor. I just think as a dog, I'd much rather just, for a player of his type, I'd much rather just take a set taker. You know, a Willian, a Pepe. I'm going to talk about Rafinha here soon, but somebody like that. or if I'm going to go for goal upside, probably a more favored type of guy, or like an underpriced Aubameyang versus Richarlison. That's just my thoughts. All right, final game, Leeds versus Newcastle. So Leeds set situation is probably just about as frustrating as Chelsea. For those that played today's slate, Mason Mount we've been seeing on Monopoly set pieces, and all of a sudden Ben Chilwell decides to take all of them today. Look, Rafinha, we saw Calvin Phillips started the season, was taking the sets most of last season, then it became Klitsch. We've seen Jack Harrison, and now it appears to be Rafinha, who used to take in the French league a lot, so it's not like these sets are coming out of nowhere. He just wasn't taking for them when he first got there. But look, he took almost everything for them, ended with 10 crosses. He's active in open play too, so if that's what we're going to do, we have to kind of gauge off of the most recent evidence. So I think Rafinha is going to fit in squarely into cash game consideration as another forward. Possibly is the best cash game floor if like you knew for a fact that Rafinha was going to be on a monopoly of sets for Leeds as the biggest favorite and forward eligible, you would take him and not even think twice about it. So that's kind of how I'm going to approach it. Like, I just don't want to overthink this. We have recent evidence. Harrison was on the pitch, Phillips was on the pitch, Klitsch was on the pitch. Like, what else do we need to see here? So I think I'll be on him. Calvin Phillips is squarely out of play at this point. He sits deep. Klitsch is still in there because he's taking PKs. Always like Bamford, high, especially versus Newcastle. Like, we just got to keep this in mind. Newcastle, especially away from home, they are, especially versus a team like Leeds, who's going to take a ton of pressure to them. They are going to bunker so hard and just try to counter, in my opinion, which is going to lead to potentially a ton of DFS points for Leeds. So while Rafinha is kind of the quote-unquote obvious cash play, I do really like almost like a full stack in GPP, maybe like a Rafinha, Bamford, Klitsch in case of he jumps on a few sets plus PKs, and he's still in an attacking position. You could play Rodrigo Moreno. Jack Harrison is kind of falling down the list a little bit for me now that he's like seems to be forgotten. A lot more of the action's going to Rafinha's side. But yeah, I mean, there's just so many good plays. And I didn't even go into fullbacks. You do want to watch Luke Ayling. He plays a lot of center backs, so he's always, and you never know with Bielsa. He can play like this 3-3-3 from a formation, sometimes he'll go like 4-4-2. You really just 4-1-4-1. Like, you never really know. So I think Ayling, as a result, almost is always like my least favorite, even though he has great games, because he could just become a center back. But Alioski is always going to be some version of a left back or a left winger. Stuart Dallas, at worst, he's going to be in the midfield. It's right back or midfield for him. So that's kind of how Leeds shakes out. Nothing on the Newcastle side for me. Never a team that like you ever love going out of the way to play, especially now that Richie's back. So Richie and Shelby on a set split versus Leeds. No, thank you. If you want just a YOLO goal on the counter or something, maybe like a Callum Wilson could work. But that's probably it. Guys, that is the early slate. Looks like I went a little bit over 13 minutes. I'll see if I make it up on the next one and get you closer to 10. But this one's going to be a fun one. I'm really, really looking forward to this. So thank you so much for watching. Once again, Keith, aka Gator Guy 231. Good luck in your contest, and see ya!